Well, our next guest is the person largely responsible for instigating the forum. As a proud Westie, Minister of Social Development, Paula Bennett is in her element representing the people of Waitakere as their local MP. As a proud New Zealander, she's honoured to serve as Minister for Social Development, Employment and Youth Affairs. Raising her daughter single-handedly as a young mum, Paula learned about her own strengths and abilities the hard way and was determined to achieve better outcomes for herself and her child. She worked her way through roles in hospitality and in retirement homes, which included stints as a rest home dishwasher, a nurse aide, a recruitment consultant. And then she went on to university, where she knew her opportunities would multiply. Gaining a degree in social policy was a life-changing experience that eventually led her to politics in 2005. Paula's mantra is self-belief with a huge dose of hard work can make anything possible. Paula passionately believes people are capable of making real and positive change in their lives, and as Minister of Social Development relishes the opportunity to back them to do for themselves and their families and their communities as much as they possibly can. Ladies and gentlemen, Paula Bennett.
Ina mana, ina reo, i te iwi, i te motu, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. May I please acknowledge Paula Rebstock, who is chairing the Welfare Working Group, and the fabulous job that she's doing there and the big job she's doing there. Can I acknowledge Carol and say thank you for helping us pull the next couple of days together and keep us on track and see what we're doing. Can I also just acknowledge Peter Hughes, because he's in the room and he is the Chief Executive Extraordinaire this week. And he'll be blushing. There he goes, head down. I knew he'd do that. But it's lovely to have you here, Peter, and thank you for all you're doing within the ministry and for New Zealand, quite frankly. It's an honour to be working with you in some of those achievements that we're doing. Can I acknowledge the Welfare Working Group members and say thank you for all you're doing? And then it was one where I looked around and I just thought, I see so many familiar faces and I could pick some names out, but that's a trap for young players. So I will say good morning and acknowledge the speakers, the participants and all of you that have come along for these next couple of days. I am really pleased to be opening this forum. The focus on the next 2 days is a very important debate for this country. I thank the Welfare Working Group for hosting the event. And at this point I'm not going to give a speech sort of prescribing what I think should happen here and what I think should happen as far as welfare. And trust me, I've rewritten this speech about 4 times and felt that actually my prescription and my opinions at this point could take a back seat, and that this forum is about listening and is about hearing and is about actually learning from the speakers, the people in the room, and what your ideas are instead. So I'm just going to take a few minutes, and there's some debate on how few those few minutes will be, and then hand it over to the Welfare Working Group under Carol for the next few days to actually see how you run there. Welfare. It's fair to say that this is a controversial topic. Yeah? And I acknowledge that really from the outset. And frankly, this debate could get uncomfortable. It could get emotional. But perhaps it should. Every New Zealander is touched by welfare somehow. Many of us know someone who is or has been on welfare. Many of us have been there ourselves. In fact, many of us are on welfare right now. So 1 in 8 Kiwis are receiving a benefit. And ultimately, of course, all of that comes through people who are paying their taxes. So we all have an interest in our welfare system. I acknowledge that this debate could spark prejudices. We may even see an ugly side of New Zealand. But I believe we will also see hope and aspiration, compassion and understanding. There will of course be differences, but it is time for an honest conversation. It is time to look at those expanding numbers and people who are dependent. Time we asked ourselves some basic questions. What kind of system do we want to have? Who should get welfare and for how long? How do we pay for it? Look, I formed the Welfare Working Group to examine these questions. This is a group of 8 people with expertise in social, employment, business, psychology and health issues, through to those working on the front line. A great deal of thought went into assembling this group of people, as I recognised we needed different thinkers to look at fairness, sustainability, long-term welfare dependence, incentives, access, the structure. But this group should not feel constrained, and neither should you. I ask you to expand your thinking. Challenge yourselves, challenge each other. Challenge us, challenge me. I want you to think, what would this look like if you started from scratch? If you were creating the system, what would you do? Push the boundaries. I leave it to you to explore these issues with New Zealand. I could have defined the problems as I see them here today, but I won't. Believe me, I do have a few thoughts on the subject to share, but I won't. This isn't the time for me to talk, this is your turn. So don't be scared of this challenge. I'm asking you to ask and answer some truly difficult questions. But at the end of the day, it is my responsibility to get this right. This government is committed to a sustainable and fair welfare system. So I believe it is time for this conversation. This is about changing the society we live in. It is about having a system that is sustainable and fair to New Zealanders. So as you hear a range of opinions and ideas over the next 2 days, think about what you want this country to look and feel like in 20 years' time. Let that guide the debate. It is an absolute pleasure to be here to speak at the beginning of this forum. I wish you well in your next 2 days. Thank you.